Hi, this is Ralph Wilson with Web Marketing Today. I'm in San Jose at the Search Engine Strategies Conference with Bryan Eisenberg, one of the experts in the whole area of conversion, getting items to convert or sell or people to take action. You had a seminar on how to turn your analytics into a money-making machine.
Yes.
Now that sounds like a great title. Is that just blowing fluff, or can you do it? How do you do it?
You can. You know, Ralph, the great thing over the last number of years, and remember, you know, you got me started in this industry. One of the first things I started reading back in the very late 90s. And in 1998, when we started focusing in on conversion and helping people increase their conversion rates, you know, you had a few people who were using web analytics. They were using tools like web trends and stuff like that, but it was a few people. It really wasn't a lot. And Google came out and, you know, gave away the free analytics, and it was a really powerful tool. And now almost everybody has web analytics. The problem is just because you have it doesn't mean you're doing anything with it, right? People may go ahead, they may glance at their reports, say, oh yeah, that's good, and you know, you're done. And unfortunately, that doesn't really produce revenue.
So how do you make money with your analytics?
So there are a number of steps, and I was fortunate enough to be joined by a couple of great friends, my friend Avinash Kaushik and Jim Stern. So I'm not going to share their tips, but I'll share with you the three of my key tips. I think the first one, and I think that it's one of the challenges that most entrepreneurs have, is that they don't really set their priorities and they don't really create a task list for themselves. And so the first thing I recommend people do is actually create a to-do list. And so every month, or if depending on the size of your business and your resources, do it weekly or monthly. And what you want to do in this to-do list is say, okay, what are the areas of my website or my marketing campaigns that aren't working as well as they should? Just mark those down. The next thing you want to do is say, okay, what are those things I want to improve? Mark those down. Then you want to go ahead and say, okay, what should I test this month? I've heard some really cool things. Maybe I want to test, you know, adding a rollover for my newsletter subscription. Great, let me go test that. So you come up with that list. Then the next thing you need to do is make a list of all those marketing efforts that you should do more of, right? Let's say the top 5 or top 10 you should do more of this month, and the bottom 5 that you should do less of. So now you've got a whole bunch of items. Okay, so now it could also become overwhelming. So now here's where I think it's really important to do it. You need to prioritize it, because it always comes down to, yeah, it's great to have a list, but you still have to execute on it. And that's, I think, the challenge everybody has, is to prioritize it based on what objective it's going to meet for you, right? Is it going to bring me more traffic? Is it going to bring me more leads? Is it going to bring me more sales? Is it going to increase my average order value? Have a list of what your main objectives are. I write down right next to what it is and how you would improve it if you can, if that's one of those efforts that you're going to try to do, or how you're going to do more of the particular effort. And then here's the key thing: mark down how many resource hours it will take you, how many man hours, right? Is it you, is your team, and list that all out about how long it's going to take you, and then rank it based on how well you think it'll improve your ROI.
You know, I think this is an important idea, just to take time every week or every month to sit down and think about your business. I mean, a lot of smaller companies, they're just
running the treadmill
real fast, and they really don't think about improvement that much. They just think about, you know, doing the next thing.
Exactly.
And so this is really a reflective process that's valuable to any business, not just the analytics, but just your business.
Absolutely. And this is really important because, again, you know, we've talked about continuous improvement many times together, and I really want to give people this perspective of it. 50 years ago, people could have invested in one of two car companies, GM or Toyota. And if you think about, you know, when you think about it from that magnitude, and you think about where those businesses are today, and so yeah, it took 50 years to get those businesses where they are today. But you know what? GM lived on inspiration and doing the next best thing, and all those innovation ideas. And Toyota just said, I don't need innovation. I'll just take other people's innovation and keep improving on it. And they just focused on the continuous improvement, the Kaizen principle. And look where they are today, and look where GM is today. Now, the difference is internet time is much faster, so it's not going to be 50 years.
So point 1 is make a list and prioritize it.
Yep.
Point number 2?
Point number 2 is segment your way out of sadness.
What does that mean?
So the problem is, a lot of people look at their metrics and they look at the aggregate, and the aggregate doesn't tell you anything.
Okay.
So what you really want to do is start doing, especially in Google Analytics, if you look in your upper right-hand corner, there's a place that says Advanced Segments. And there's a little pull-down menu, and it gives you little choices of checkboxes you can do. And I just recommend, hey, you know what? Go play with the checkboxes, even if you don't know exactly what they mean.
So what might be typical segments?
So one of my favorite ones, which is very simple, is new visitors versus repeat visitors.
Right.
If there's a huge discrepancy, and I'm talking about usually if your conversion rate for new visitors is 2% and your repeat visitors is like 8 or 10%, you've got a problem with your new visitors. Usually if you want to see maybe a 3 times difference, but anything more than that, you probably got a concern with new visitors. Maybe they don't trust you enough, maybe they don't understand what you do well enough, so you want to focus there. You want to look at things like the difference between paid search, organic search, direct traffic, social media. There's all these different ways that you can segment your traffic to try to figure out what really is valuable to you. So segmentation is key because average metrics produce average results.
Okay, so the second point is look at your data segmented rather than just as a whole, and you'll learn something a lot more than you would otherwise.
Absolutely.
And the third point?
And the third point really is about, you won't be surprised. You need to always be testing.
Always be testing. You wrote a book with that title.
I did. And it's not just about multivariate testing and A/B testing. And maybe even personalization. It's something that people can start looking at if depending on where they are in the business. But it's also about doing usability testing. It's about getting voice of customer feedback, things like 4Q or 4C or the Camp Pile. There's all these great tools that you can get feedback because you want to constantly be listening to customers and coming up with new ideas out of it and put them into your to-do list, right? So this is kind of a feedback loop if you think about it that way. And as well as what you want to be doing is looking at things like what new marketing efforts you should be testing. Should I be testing a campaign on Facebook? Should I be testing advertising on Facebook? Maybe it'll work for me, maybe it won't.
Let me ask the simple question. Why is testing so important?
Well, same thing. You know what? That old joke about that opinions are much like armpits. Everyone has them. They all stink.
No, I hadn't heard that, but thanks for sharing it. I'm sure that's uplifting.
Yeah, you know what? It's one thing to have an assumption about something and to think that it could be true, and it's the same thing with best practices. But you know how often I've seen best practices proved wrong in a test?
Yes.
And I think that's what's really cool.
I've proved some of mine wrong in testing.
Yeah, it's so much better to make decisions based on some real data as opposed to just your opinion. And I know it's hard to test everything, especially when you're a small business and you don't have a lot of traffic. But even if you test a little things and small things, you'll feel more secure about it. And again, it drives that culture of always be testing and continuous improvement.
Well, thanks, Bryan, for sharing with us. Tell me about your business and what you do.
So what we do is help people prioritize that to-do list. We actually come up with it for them. So we have a little analytics tag like everyone else, but instead of getting all those reports and fancy things of which most people have a hard time doing anything with, we produce specialized results that our personal analysts, as people, will go and give you a prioritized to-do list on how you can improve your conversion rates.
Thanks for sharing with us.
Always happy.
This is Ralph Wilson with Web Marketing.